today. Believe in Cowboys, brought to you by FanDuel Sports. So let's go ahead, dive into this, because all off season, the talk is Jerry Jones busting the budget, the urgent needs. Free agency began. We didn't necessarily see the budget busted as we, might have expected. But what were your initial thoughts just seeing how free agency came and went, and you didn't necessarily see the big splash names?
Yeah, I think for me, the bust the budget stuff, like if you're someone who's still falling for the like catchphrases of the offseason, God bless you. I'd love to see your bracket, but I've been hypercritical of the Cowboys for not being involved, not doing things, not utilizing free agency this time of year, and I feel like they've my request has always been use free agency to raise your floor, to fill your holes, to prevent yourself from being pigeonholed and prevent yourself from having your pants pulled down during the NFL draft, which has been the case for a long time. They obviously haven't hit at linebacker yet. I think everybody agrees with that. I hate to give them credit for trying and give them some sort of participation trophy. And to me, ultimately, the reports around Kobe Dean were that, to kind of cover the whole thing here, were that offers were essentially equal between the Cowboys and the Raiders, and that he picked the Raiders. And I mean, that's kind of crazy that anyone would pick the Raiders over the Cowboys. Granted, he had, speaking of the Florida Gators, a bit of a Georgia connection there with all the new blood that's there. But I think that's the atrophy that's taken place over the last few years by the Cowboys sitting out free agency and being so silly, being so toxic. They've allowed other teams to get in the conversation in that sense. So there's a bit of a price you have to pay ultimately. And I think that they're kind of learning those lessons. Hopefully, maybe I'm giving them too much of the benefit of the doubt, but I'm fairly pleased. That's kind of my long way of saying that. I think that they've acted like adults, and that's been the first requirement that I've had for a long time.
Yeah, when we look at everything that's happened, we know that you have a new defensive coordinator coming in, and a lot of these players signed on the defensive side. They've all been, short 1-year deals, that are cap friendly. You bring in these guys to see if they can come in and motivate, individual position rooms. So one signing that I do like is the Kobe Durant signing. We know he's a ball hawk. We know he's a playmaker. He comes in. We've seen him make plays for the Rams in this past playoffs, getting 3 interceptions, just always around the ball. Your thoughts on the Cowboys bringing him in to liven up that defensive back room?
Yeah, I think for me, Jalen Thompson's still the free agent I'm the most excited about. But I do think that people had kind of, put that aside because they were so angry with the fact that there was no linebacker. And the Kobe Durant signing kind of woke everybody back up and got everybody kind of back excited. And I think that, people look at things and say like, oh, it's a 1-year deal. Like, oh, he's only going to be here for a little bit. And it makes me think when you mentioned the new hiring of Christian Parker, when the Cowboys were interviewing prospects to be their defensive coordinator, there were so many people who said, well, I don't want Christian Parker because he's so young, and if he succeeds, someone's going to hire him to be a head coach. That would be a very good problem to have. Like that would, right. I hope that, would that be ideal? No, like in a perfect world, obviously, like you would have a coaching staff and live together forever and win Super Bowls all the time. But like, sign me up for that problem, and we'll figure it out, obviously, if we have to. And I feel the same way about the Kobe Durant signing, so to speak. I again have advocated for them to utilize free agency. I don't need them to be tying themselves to players in this window long term. Not a lot of them. Now you got to go out and you've got to entice certain dudes. You got to get Jalen Thompson in the building, obviously, and you want him around for longer than 5 minutes. But if Kobe Durant is here for 5 minutes, so to speak, while whoever, if you want to draft Jermod McCoy or Mansour Delane or whoever it is, while that person is coming along and establishing themselves in the NFL, that's a good thing. And when he moves on, if he does move on, he has a great year, he signs elsewhere. Okay, then you find next year's Kobe Durant. So I'm very excited. You're right. He has the track record and the pedigree of success. And I think more than anything, he shows he's probably the best bargain or the best value the Cowboys have gotten so far throughout free agency. So he just kind of checked every box in that capacity.
Yeah, speaking of checking every box, like we were talking about defensively, so far this offseason, we've seen pretty much every position of need on the defensive side addressed except linebacker, which you just spoke about a minute ago. But when we're breaking this down, going past free agency, looking at the draft, we know those still primary areas of need on defense. We know what they are. We know that they're corner. We know that they're edge, linebacker, safety. In your opinion, rank those from your perspective. Like, what are the top the most important position of need for the Cowboys going into the draft?
I think it depends on how you feel about things, right? Like if you are looking at how do they fix 2026, relative to 2025, the answer is clearly linebacker. Like they don't have an NFL linebacker on their roster right now. So in that regard, linebacker makes the most sense. But you could certainly argue like right now, who's on the poster of the defense, right? Like who are your cornerstones? Who are your future guys? Like Quinnen Williams, right? Like he's obviously kind of a center point, but he's not new, or excuse me, he is new. He's not, drafted by you. He's not your own guy. You need that guy. You need what Micah Parsons was, what Trayvon Diggs were. And so in that regard, I mean, I would offer that maybe corner is that position. You need that guy. You need that new cornerstone, that new foundational piece, that new young guy, young buck to become your leader of the future. And a lot of this obviously is how the board falls and how things are dictated to you and what talent is available. So it does depend on your outlook, and obviously how you view the outlook of overall roster construction 3-4 years down the road. And obviously they've got, some things planned for rainy days and whatnot. But I think linebacker, if you're just like right now, if we're building a house, there's no roof, and linebacker is the roof. But I mean, there's more to building this thing than just putting the roof on top. We have a whole host of issues that we have to address as well.
Yeah, a lot of issues right here. Believe in Cowboys, presented by FanDuel. Ro Parrish, along with RJ Ochoa, joining us today for Blogging with the Boys. So I need to figure this out because a lot of people I talk to when it comes to Cowboys, they're either, longtime Cowboys fans or, they cover the team. I want to know what your personal Cowboys philosophy is when it comes to covering them. How did it start? Did you grow up a Cowboys fan? Is this something that you fell into because of work? I just want to have a better understanding of your Cowboys philosophy.
That's my dog. His name is Bear, although not named after that horrible university. And so apologies on behalf of him. It's trash pickup day, so he's protecting the house. I'm inordinately blessed to do something that I love for a living, and I grew up a very passionate Cowboys fan. Obviously, I'm 36 years old, and so Tony Romo kind of came on the scene when I was in the middle of high school and at an impressionable age. T.O., Jason Witten, all the dudes and whatnot. And I was fortunate to kind of be around and be a young adult at the time that social media was kind of becoming a thing. I don't know how I would start today if I was 22 or 23 years old. It would be so intimidating and so overwhelming. And so around 2014, 15-ish, I just, I wasn't having success in anything that I was trying to do or anything I was supposed to be trying to do. And all I knew, I'm an only child. I spoke to my parents and said, I really like the Cowboys, which, I mean, God bless my mom and dad for being supportive of that. And said, I don't know what I want to do with this, but like, I know this is what I really, really, really love. And so I just was tweeting a lot and making friends on the internet and essentially covering the team as a content creator, even though that term was kind of foreign to the world at that point in time. And tried to do everything I could, said yes to anything and everything, tried to get on as many podcasts as I could. I started blogging. I was living in San Antonio at the time and was inordinately fortunate that they had a local contest that was kind of a first take type thing. And I won, and that opened some doors for me. Started blogging more, writing more, podcasting more, doing more, posting on Instagram more. TikTok becomes a thing, doing live shows, whatever. So just kind of amassing whatever I could and saying yes to everything and trying to just find a place to talk about the team that I love. And so I'm very, very fortunate as well that where I work is kind of a fan driven perspective. And so I'm not beholden to, I do consider myself a journalist, obviously, but not any kind of journalistic practices and that I have to be impartial. I can't show myself. We live in a day and age where I think opinions matter, emotions matter. And so I just am truly myself with what I do and state how I feel and obviously try to be professional as well. But that's kind of what gets me out of bed every day and how I try to live my life.
No, that's awesome to hear. I'm a little bit different. I'll give my brief spiel on my Cowboys philosophy. Grew up in the Metroplex in the 90s, witnessed the Cowboys as Jerry Jones purchased the team, and that's all I heard when we moved here. Some businessman from Arkansas has fired Tom Landry. Watched the 1-15 team. Watched the team be constructed and Jimmy Johnson come in and become the GOAT, in my opinion, and build this team and this franchise to respectability, winning multiple Super Bowls. And then I saw it all crumble. And then I once worked for the team and saw how the sausage was made during the time where you were in high school, where you talked about watching Tony Romo and Jason Witten and T.O. Those were my homies. I was in the locker room with those guys, and I saw one guy after the other get traded, cut, not re-signed. I'm like, dude, what are we doing? Like, this team is successful, whoop-de-whoop. And slowly but surely, the fandom that I had dissipated year by year. And now it's like, okay, I'm going to be a journalist. If the Cowboys play good, I'm going to tell you they play good. If they play like trash, I'm going to tell you they play like trash. No longer a fan. Removed that hat a long time ago. But hey, the franchise is what it is. Jumped off the bandwagon because, like as you said, some people subscribe and they'll drink the Kool-Aid when it comes to the owner saying we're going to. Yeah. So got tired of hearing that. Have seen many things behind the scenes that just turned me off from being a Cowboys fan. But hey, I'm here. We're on the Cowboys podcast. Again, I come from a journalistic perspective, seen a lot of things, and I try to be as objective as possible when it comes to the Cowboys.
I think that's a good way to roll. And yeah, learning how the sausage gets made is a bit sobering. And I think that's just that's adult life in a lot of ways. Like when you learn, it's like, oh, so this is where my taxes go type stuff. But I also think, like, if you're, again, I don't know how I would manage it if I was younger now, but I remember, speaking of Jesse Holland, I told him this on this show a year and a half ago, whatever. I remember 4th and long. I vividly remember that. But like, it was awesome then. I was hanging on every word and I was rooting for Jesse, very truthfully. That's my honest, opinion, even whatever it's been 17 years later. But like, if that happened today, if there was again, I'm very happy for Jesse that it worked out and that he's done what he's done in his career. But if that happened today, I would kill them today. I would absolutely kill them if that happened today, which just kind of speaks to how things have changed, how life has changed, how media has changed, but also how we've been worn down, because it was a very cool and innovative and interesting thing at the time. But they've just burned up the benefit of the doubt by not winning, obviously, in this entire span.
Indeed. It's Believe in Cowboys right here, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. I want to get your thoughts on this because we saw how everything took place with Maxx Crosby. This is a little bit old, but I want to bring this back for a certain reason. We know that the trade was nullified with the Ravens. We heard allegedly what the Cowboys offered, a 1 and a 2. Now, at this point, Maxx Crosby says he's a Raider for life. However, we know how things go when it comes to the NFL. All that to say, do you think the Cowboys should spin the block maybe later on this summer when it comes to acquiring Maxx Crosby?
I think I understand this has been a unique thing. Like, these things don't happen often. It reminds me of, and I want to be very clear, this was a horrible thing that happened, but when Lyle Collins was not drafted in 2015 and he fell out of it, and then the Cowboys wined him and dined him and convinced him to sign with them as an undrafted free agent. And again, the circumstances around Lyle not being drafted were horrible and terrible, but it's similar in that it feels like something we've never seen before, kind of like what that was. I hope I'm being clear there. And so with regards to Maxx, I understand why a lot of Cowboys fans are saying jump back in, get in, whatever. And what I would offer is, why hasn't anybody jumped back in? Why are the Bears not in on this? Why has anybody? Why were the Bills not in? Why, obviously we know why the Ravens weren't in, but and all due respect to Dr. Cooper, I don't even really care about that part of this. I care about the fact that no NFL team has seemingly gotten in. I also understand the Raiders, both from a resource standpoint and maybe a pride standpoint, don't want to let him go for less than a certain, price point or whatever the case may be. But I do think this is, given the context of how we got here, if I were the Cowboys, and it's a lot easier to say this than do, but I would have a very firm lower price now. And if you want to take it, great. And if you don't, okay, like, we're prepared to live with the consequences. But I also understand having traded for Rashawn Gary, and my biggest criticism of them for 2 years now, ever since the playoff loss to Green Bay, has been that they have not moved in a singular direction. And what I've said for 2 years is if you move in a direction, Ro, if you do something in life that I disagree with and I think you shouldn't do it or whatever, that's fine. But if all your energy, if all your will, if all of your time and resources are spent trying to accomplish a certain goal, even if it's something I disagree with, damn, I respect that, because you are putting all of what you got into one drive, into one mission. And they have not done that here. They have not done that for 2 years. They have lived, one life on Monday and then felt a different way on Tuesday and then changed their mind back on Wednesday and whatnot. And that's inefficient. Again, even if I disagree with your mission, if you're doing all of it, if you're tanking or you're going all in or you're busting the budget, whatever. And so I, on some level, applaud them for having the conviction of saying, no, we moved on. We made our decision. We made our bed. We're going to lie in it, and we're prepared to live with the consequences.
Interesting perspective. Love to hear it right there. Hey, blogging with the boys, you see them, you hear them, you read them all the time. RJ Ochoa joining us on Believe in Cowboys, presented by FanDuel. And we're about to wrap things up, and I appreciate you for taking the time. I got to know, so obviously we went over your past. You know what? Scratch that. Before I get out of here, I got to ask you this too. So let's put you in the War Room draft day, Thursday night, pick 12 and 20. We don't know who's picked, but if you're in that hot seat, if you're sitting next to Will McClay and next to Jerry Jones and they're looking at you, you have your choice. Who are you taking at number 12 and who are you taking at number 20 and why?
I think at 12, in a perfect world, Delane falls. You fix corner. You get a blue blood dude, blue chip prospect, and you feel really good about the first step that you've taken. And I think at 20, if you feel like you have to reach on CJ Allen because you haven't gotten a linebacker at this point, I can meet you halfway if you've landed the 12th overall pick, obviously. I had felt for a while before the Osa trade that a trade back was mandatory, that you had to trade out of one of those spots and you had to pick up a day 2 pick because you didn't have any. Now, they only have one, to be very clear here. So I would still really applaud that. I understand a lot of people are opposed to CJ Allen at 20 and his pro day didn't help matters. But that being said, if you don't like that, if you don't love it, if you are, just feeling like, man, there's nothing we really love here, trade out, get yourself another 3rd round pick and whatnot, because you do not have to force any kind of issue here. That would, again, be my kind of guiding light in my North Star. But you obviously have to walk away with defensive help. But if you can walk away with more assets, more darts to throw at the board on Friday, then so be it. I mean, that's truly what you have to do. But I do not want to see them trade up. I don't want to see them do anything reckless. They've handled things pretty maturely so far, and I don't want to see them screw that up.
Acting as adults, acquiring more draft capital would definitely be acting as an adult. That's an opinion that I can respect. Also, Jesse said something similar. It's like, okay, if the player that you want isn't there, don't force it. Don't, draft somebody that, is not really going to be a benefit. Trade down, again, acquire more picks, and then you move forward, bring more players into the building. So, I echo those sentiments. It's like, hey, CJ Allen, he was a dog, literally and physically, when it comes to him playing in the SEC, but questions have been raised. He didn't run the 40 at his pro day and so many other things, questions about the knee. Listen, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. I think he's a player. Is he the player that you want at 20? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, and that's, if you've got a guy who fights for him and you want to buy that opinion, then again, then step forward and don't look back. Like we talked about, have that conviction in CJ Allen, and that's fine. But what I do not want is for CJ Allen to be the pick because you didn't get into Kobe Dean or because of whatever. Like, you can't let those dominoes fall. You can't be chasing your tail. And so, yeah, I would love a trade back because Friday night will suck. If all they have is that 92nd overall pick, Friday night will be horrible and they'll get itchy and they'll want to do something stupid. And I don't think any of us want that.
Right, indeed. So, all right, as we get ready to wrap things up, I just want to go a couple of different areas because you talked about the Cowboy fandom that you have and being blessed to be in the position to be able to cover the team in a journalistic manner, but still have that fan hat on as well. So I need to know, number one, what is your favorite absolute Cowboys moment that you witnessed of all time?
So again, I've been very fortunate to do a lot of different things. I'd say the memory I hold on to the most fondly, I mentioned Tony Romo. I was at the 2013 Broncos game that the Cowboys lost. But that was such vindication as someone who believed in Tony Romo. That one really stands out. It was such a great day. Actually, as I say that, I was also at my dad and I, before COVID, we used to go to a road game every year. And in 2016, we went to Pittsburgh. And that was the Zeke walk-off game. And I had never been to Pittsburgh. Like, it was such a great sports town. It was just such an awesome week and such an awesome, experience with my dad. And when we bought the tickets, the gentleman we bought them from, they were his season seats. And he said that Franco Harris, God rest his soul, had the seat next to him. And we were like, dude, there's just no way that this is true or whatever. And so when we got there, we were eating lunch or whatever and kind of talking to fans who were, in that area. And they were like, well, where are you from, whatever, and where are you seated? And they were like, those are next to Franco's seats. And so, like, kind of riding the roller coaster of, like, starting to believe, wait a minute, this is legitimately real. And then getting there, sitting down, the national anthem plays, Franco Harris walks over, sits down. I watched that whole game sitting between my dad and Franco Harris. I mean, like, I don't know, that I'll ever do anything like that again. And the fact that it wasn't just a Cowboys win and an epic win, but it was against the Steelers. And I love the NFL so much and NFL history. I mean, it was just, I can't believe I went to that Broncos game first. Like, I don't know how this didn't jump to the top of my mind. So that 2016 Cowboys Steelers game is my answer.
The parallels in that are awesome because you're sitting next to Franco Harris, who clearly had one of the most famous walk-offs in NFL history. Right. And then you get to witness the Cowboys walk-off with another running back. That's a dope moment. So I need to know, if we put together let's just say, for the sake of time, a Cowboys Mt Rushmore of your favorite players, who would it be?
I think Roger Staubach's got to be on there. There's no doubt about it. And I think you've got to have Troy and Emmett, just in that they represent the 90s and they represent so much of the commercial success the Cowboys have had. Not that anybody cares about that, but that is a part of who they are. And then I think you obviously have to have somebody from more modern times, from a futuristic standpoint. And I think Jason Witten makes a lot of sense. I don't know that I would go that direction. I think to represent the modern era, I might go Zach Martin, because he also represents a different side of who the Cowboys are, in that, they didn't take Johnny Manziel, right? Like, you kind of cover the success of who the Cowboys are and the narratives of who they are, if these are your four. It's a very tough question. I also think you have to have an offensive lineman for a team that prides themselves on doing the Landry shift in victory formation like they did in Pittsburgh that day. You got to have somebody there. And so I'll go Roger, Troy, Emmett, and Zach Martin. And it bums me out that Zach doesn't have a ring on that group.
Man, solid list. I respect it, man. I respect your Cowboys fandom, and I also respect the journalistic integrity that you maintain in covering while you blog with the boys. Well, hey, we appreciate you for joining us on this episode for Believe in Cowboys. I know you got big plans as far as watching the NCAA tournament, man. So once again, appreciate you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time. We'll check with you next time.
Of course. Appreciate you having me.
Indeed. Hey, that's a wrap for us at Believe in Cowboys. You know how we do. Love, respect, and salute.